everybody. So today's topic is likely to be earning me some hate mail, as always. But, so today's topic is vegetarian and vegan diets and whether or not they're optimal for sports performance. Now, I did a video about this on my very first YouTube channel a long time ago. It got, a bunch of views or something. And I had so many people angry at me about it. And I was still I was honestly pretty generous towards vegetarian and vegan diets, I feel. And I've gotten even more generous over time, so maybe they won't be mad at me now. But I'm sure I'm still going to get some people telling me that I'm, whatever. Anyway, so are they optimal for sports performance? Well, I would say in many cases probably no. In many more cases, the answer is it really depends on what your sport is. There's the main reason that we need a lot of protein is to sustain a lot of muscle mass. Now, if you're a vegetarian and you can get that protein in elsewhere, then that's fine. If you eat a lot of beans, a lot of tofu, etc. And you have to understand, vegetarians can still have dairy, they can still have eggs, and there's even flexitarians that'll have some fish or some chicken as well, and again that's fine. You can absolutely get the amount of protein in that you need. Now, would I say that that people are smart about it and tend to get their protein needs all the time? Well, not really. People, in general are not smart. But are they, do people approach it with the right mindset where they need to make sure they're getting enough protein in, where they need to make sure they're getting, at least some protein from, a protein shake or some BCAA supplements or something like that, so they're getting some leucine into their diet, so it's not just, all the other amino acids that your body doesn't need as much of. Sometimes people don't do all that. And so, it's highly possible to do a vegetarian or vegan diet properly and get in the right amount of protein and do everything right. But I would say that most people don't really know enough to do that right, when they do it. And, I'll be honest, when you look at the vegan dieting community or the vegetarian dieting community even, sometimes there's a lot more dogma than there is actual science to back stuff up. And, again, I have nothing against, let me state this extremely clearly, I have nothing against these diets. You can absolutely, perform very well and in a variety of sports. And you have to understand also that, again, like I said, it depends on what your sport is. When it comes to bodybuilding is the one where, maintaining muscle mass is the single largest and most important variable. So when it comes to bodybuilding, it's extremely important, and it may be suboptimal for that. When it comes to other sports, it's actually not as important in many cases. For example, powerlifting is an interesting one, or any kind of strength sport. Well, yeah, you do need a certain amount of muscle mass to be able to move weights, and more muscle mass is better. But it's actually easier to maintain muscle mass than to build it, like a bodybuilder would do. And most of your training is not focused on building muscle; it's focused on training your body to use the muscle that you have more efficiently. So the end result is that as a powerlifter or other strength athlete, you could even basically do certain phases of bodybuilding style, body composition optimization. And yeah, you might want to, focus on your protein intake then, or, maybe not do a vegetarian diet or vegan diet then. But for the most of the rest of the time when you're actually just training for strength, your diet doesn't matter as much. And so, vegetarian, vegan doesn't matter. It's the same thing with a lot of performance-based sports. Running, you don't need a ton of muscle mass to be a good runner usually. You do need some kind of strength training or something like that so that you can, minimize injury chances. But you don't have to be the most jacked dude in the world to go running. So again, vegetarian, vegan, awesome, great. And there's so many other sports out there. I'm not gonna, go into every single one of them right now, but you get the idea. Basically, you know, it's just it depends highly on your sport, and it depends on the demands of your sport. You know, a football player needs to depending on your position, may need to be pretty big and maintain a lot of muscle mass. Maybe not optimal to be a vegetarian or vegan in that situation. And I will say that, you know, the last time I talked about the subject, I got so many people that were like, "You're extremely ignorant. Check out all these athletes. Check out this vegan bodybuilder. Check out this vegan powerlifter. Check out this vegan strongman." I'm not saying it's impossible, you know, and yeah, it's highly possible. You know, we have Patrick Baboumian, who's a vegan strongman. There's vegan powerlifters. There's vegan bodybuilders. I could name a few, but you know, they exist. They're not non-existent. Here's a few things I will say though, and one of them is that, you know, this may be an extremely wrong statement, but in my experience, I've tended to see that vegan bodybuilders in particular, or vegetarian bodybuilders, tend to be a little bit in the lighter end. They tend to be a bit in the lighter weight classes. And that may be simply because, you know, when you're lighter, you don't need as much protein, so you can get away with it. I don't know of a single, you know, a modern bodybuilder, which is to say one of the 250, 300 pound monsters that we see walking around today. I don't know really of a single one of those that is a vegan or a vegetarian. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, you know, send me some hate mail. But I don't know of any like that. I know of many that exist at lighter weight classes that, you know, would have gotten, you know, certainly would have gotten attention in the old school bodybuilding days. But I don't really know of a ton that, you know, exist that are as big as modern bodybuilders tend to be. Another important thing to understand for a lot of people is that you can't really call someone a vegetarian or vegan athlete if they've only been that for a short period of time. So for the example I like to use is Jim Morris. Jim Morris was a bodybuilder who, I believe he died recently, unfortunately. Great guy. He was on YouTube a lot. Basically, you know, old school bodybuilder, has been bodybuilding for, you know, 50 years or whatever. You know, racked up a string of wins early on in his life. But he was one of those guys that managed to just keep going and win and win, you know, maintain a pretty impressive physique into his 60s and 70s, and, you know, continue to win Masters competitions. And he switched over to veganism, I believe it was, I think it was 2000 or something like that, which was after the entirety of his career was over. Like, he had stopped competing professionally. He was no longer a professional bodybuilder. He was a meat eater, you know, basically the entire time, as far as I understand. Maybe he switched over to vegetarian, you know, at some point late in the cycle. But, you know, he switches over to a vegan after his career is over, and suddenly he's labeled as a vegan bodybuilder. You know, that doesn't quite really ring true, because we absolutely know that there's, you know, plenty of ways that there are actions that you can take early on in an athletic career that can affect your entire athletic career. Taking steroids is one of them. You can take steroids and then go off steroids, and since you've already built that muscle, that stays with you not forever, but, you know, for a long time. You've built that potential much quicker, and your entire career, you know, your entire career trajectory is altered because of that. It can be the same with keeping up a meat-eating diet for a really long time. If I've been a meat eater for 30 years, and I switched over to a vegan diet, and I've been a vegan for 1 or 2 years, you know, which do you think is most responsible for building my physique? It's the one that you've stuck with longer, and the one that's been, you know, doing a lot of the grunt work. It's highly possible that you could switch over to a vegan diet and just sort of coast or maintain at that point. And, you know, you're just, and it's not really the vegan diet that made you look the way you did. It was possibly the meat eating diet. And yeah, so, and you have to understand, I'm not trying to knock on anybody's dietary choices ever. Our understanding of nutrition is even with all the stuff, like, even today with all the science we've done, it's not, there's a lot of gaps in it. Like, we really don't know a ton about nutrition. And so yeah, you know, like, I see vegan bodybuilders and I'm like, you know, I don't know how that works, but, you know, awesome, great, you do you. You know, and we do know that there are massive differences in genetics in terms of, you know, how people react to different diets. It's highly possible that there are certain people whose bodies will simply react best to a vegetarian or vegan diet, and that's awesome if it works for you. So that's that. So that is that. But I would caution people against looking to adopt a vegetarian or vegan diet simply for the sake of performance or simply for the sake of health. I think that vegetarian and vegan diets can be healthier than a standard diet because it represents an intervention. It represents a change from the standard unhealthy diet that people tend to live. Do I think that it's necessarily inherently healthier than, you know, a better reasoned diet? No. Do I think they're inherently going to be a better athlete? No. You know, it's something that may work for you depending on your genetics, but it's not, you know, so it's not some kind of universal good or anything like that. And you also have to understand that just because something is possible doesn't mean it's optimal. And so that's, you know, that's a whole rabbit hole that I don't really want to go too deep down into. But it's like, you know, if you could do something one way and you could do something another way, and the other way took more effort but basically got you to the same place, you know, which would you say is better? Well, you'd say that the first one is better because it took you less effort to get to the same place. And I'm not necessarily saying vegetarian or vegan diets are the second option, the worst one. I'm just saying that it's one of those things where some people can absolutely do it wrong, not really know what they're doing, and then sabotage some of their efforts to build muscle, to build strength, to build performance, etc. So, you know, do I think that it's highly possible that you can do super well on a vegetarian and vegan diet as an athlete of any kind? Absolutely. Do I think that you can lose weight on, you know, a vegetarian or vegan diet? Absolutely. Awesome. Do I think that it's optimal for the vast majority of people? I mean, probably not. You know, it'll certainly be optimal for some people. It's probably not going to be optimal for many more people. So, that's basically all my thoughts on the subject. Again, if you want to send me some hate mail, I love you. Awesome, great, looking forward to it. You know, tell me what you think. Give me stuff to talk about in future videos. But that is all that I have for tonight. So, as always, like, comment, share. Tell me what you want to see next time, and I will see you guys later. Good night.